Hi, hello. Welcome back to DevOps Easy Learning. In this video, we will break down a key networking concept in AWS, the differences between elastic IPs and public IPs. These two might seem familiar or similar, but in production, choosing the right one can save you money, reduce downtime, and improve availability. So let's begin with definition. A public IP. Now, a public IP is an automatically assigned IP to your EC2 instance when you launch in a public subnet, but it can change when the instance is stopped or restarted. Now, for instance, we have an EC2 instance that we launched earlier, and as you can see in this EC2 instance, if I go to details, you will see right here that we have a public IP. Now, this public IP is what we're talking about. It changes. It is what we call a dynamic IP. Every time I stop this EC2 instance and start it again, it will change. So for instance, I'm going to stop this, click stop, and you can see it's 44211. Give it a few more seconds. And let me start it once again. Go back here and start instance. Give it a few more seconds. It's still stopping. Gonna go here, click start. Still stopping. It should be stopped now. So let's go and look at it this time and refresh one last time. And sorry, I'm supposed to click start, refresh, and go to running state. And once it is up, you can see that the IP has changed from the 411 to 3850. So this is why we call it a dynamic IP. It changes as we move around. So the other one we're going to be talking about is the elastic IP address. An elastic IP address, it's static. It's a static IPv4 address designed for dynamic cloud computing. Now, an elastic IP will persist, which means that you are actually the one that owns that IP and you can control how it is used in your AWS account. By using an elastic IP, you can mask the failure of an instance of software by rapidly remapping it, which means if you have, for instance, an EC2 instance that is running and there's something wrong with it, it's failing, you can you see have that same EC2 instance with another EC2 instance with another same application, you can actually release, detach, disassociate that elastic IP from that first failing instance and take it and attach it to a second instance that is up and running. It is pretty good in production setting and a lot of people use it. But the thing with elastic IP is that why the public IP is free, elastic IP comes with a charge. And if you go to the AWS pricing page and you go to elastic IP, you will see that it says all in use and idle elastic IP address are charged. So irrespective of if you're using it or not, AWS will charge you. So take note of that. It's not free. And AWS will charge you per hour. So, but pricing, in price wise, if you don't need an elastic IP, you can be comfortable with using a public IP. The charges are free. It's completely free, never charge. So the only difference is every time you stop that instance and start it, you want to make sure you update whatever resources is using the public IP of that EC2 instead at that time. So think of an elastic IP like you're renting a dedicated phone number. While the public IP are like just burner phones. They are cheap, temporary, and changeable. Now, I also want you to know that a good quality about elastic IP is this. You can actually take an elastic IP, and transfer it to another AWS account. So that is something you can do with an Elastic IP. But note that even though you're transferring from one AWS account to another AWS account, you have to remember that the region matters. So wherever region that an Elastic IP is assigned to you by AWS, know that that's the only region you'll be able to use that Elastic IP. So Elastic IP gives you consistent way to reach your instance, while the public IP changes with the lifecycle event. So if you're updating DNS, for instance, you're setting up a route table, a record, and you're pointing it to a third party to your instance, then Elastic IP will be the best and safer way to go. Um, I want to show here a diff. So this kind of gives you an overview of just what I've talked about. It's assigned to the public IPs are assigned to you at launch instance. Elastic IP is assigned to your AWS account. So when an instance is terminated, the public IP attached to it gets released. And with Elastic IP, it never changes. So every time you stop the instance and start it, that Elastic IP would remain the same. So let's see how we've already seen how the public IP changes. Let's see how we can actually request an Elastic IP in AWS, attach it to an EC2 instance, and how we can detach it and attach it to another EC2 instance. It's as simple as that. So to request, because you will have to request for an Elastic IP. So to request for an Elastic IP under your EC2 dashboard, scroll all the way down to Elastic Network and Security, and under there you will see Elastic IP. So I'm going to open this in a new tab. Now you'll see we have no Elastic IP in our account. I'm going to click Allocate Elastic IP address. And AWS is going to ask me what region because it's region specific. I'm going to say I want to use it in my US East 1 region. And I don't need a global static IP accelerator right now. You can use this. This global accelerator can help provide static IP addresses that are faster worldwide, but it comes with extra charge. But for us, we don't need any. So I'm going to click allocate. And like we said, an IP address has been allocated to my AWS account for the US state of Virginia, US East 1. And this is my new Elastic static IP. And it's public too as well. All right. It's not as if because it says Elastic, there's no public. It's actually public. And every Elastic IP actually has an Elastic IP address ID. So you can use that to identify what Elastic IP you have. Now, how do you associate an Elastic IP to an instance? Now, for instance, you can see this EC2 instance. If I scroll down here to this part where it says Elastic IP, you can see that it's empty. I want to assign the new Elastic IP to this EC2 instance. And remember, it functions just the same as a public IP. Now, if I click Elastic IP, select the IP you want to associate to your EC2 instance, go to the action button, click this drop down, and you see this button that says Associate Elastic IP. You click that, and it will ask you right here, what EC2 instance are you trying to associate it with? Now, note here that it says you can also associate the Elastic IP with a network interface. So you can have a network interface having an Elastic IP. But in our case, we're just going to stick with that EC2 instance and select, and it will be this one right here that I want to associate with. And leave this. You don't need a private IP. Allow this Elastic IP address to be reassociated. This is really good, especially if you want to be able to move the Elastic IP from one EC2 instance to another resource, especially when one resource is down and you want to move, you have that same resource running another another server. You want to move the Elastic IP from server A to server B. This is what you want to do. You select that and it will allow you to reassociate specific Elastic IP address can be reassociated with a different resource if already associated with a resource. Now, beautiful. Now, for now, we don't need this. I'm going to click associate and give it a few seconds, and you will see right here that it will let us know that it is associated to this EC2 instance. Now, if I go back to this EC2 instance and I click refresh, And if I scroll down to the elastic IP block, you will see right here that it is now popping up here, but we want it down here at the bottom. Let's see, in a second. It is. Now let me stop this instance. Stop. Still stopping. Let's go to all states and see where we have it. It's still running. Now, another beautiful thing you can see is that even though it stopped, it's still showing us that it has the public IP, the start elastic IP associated with it. And this is what I was trying to, get it to show. The elastic IP is now showing right here, and it says it's public. So I'm going to go ahead and start this again. And like I said, it never changes. So it will always remain the same. Still stopping. See where we are right now. And give it a few more seconds for it to stop, and we can check and see if it's still attached, and then we can check to see if it's there. So look, where we now? Yes, stop. Cool, awesome. Now let's go ahead and start again. Change to running state. It is running. And the beautiful thing about this Elastic API, since it's public, we can actually use it to view. If this was a web server, you can actually use it to view your application running right there. Yeah, look at some other useful case for this Elastic IP. Now, this Elastic IP is pretty good, especially if you're creating an A record in your Route 53 hosted zone. The best and most for best practice, it's advised that you use an Elastic IP, because if for whatever reason your instance stop, if you use a dynamic public IP with a record, if that instance changes, the record kind of fails, because it means that it's pointing to a resource that don't exist anymore, even though the resource exists, but the IP has changed. But with an Elastic IP, that is not something that you will experience. The Elastic IP will always be there, irrespective of what state the EC2 instance is at. Only use Elastic IPs when absolutely necessary. Okay. For best practice, use load balancer plus DNS for production instead of Elastic IP. So avoid Elastic IP hoarding. In other words, avoid keeping so many Elastic IP. So AWS at default, we only allow you to have 5 Elastic IP per region. So you can't have more than 5 per region. If you require more than 5 per region, you have to go to AWS Service Quarter and request for an increase for them to give you more uh, uh, availability Elastic IPs for that region. Now, always monitor Elastic IP usage in Cost Explorer. Like I said, it's not a free service, so it's going to cost you a pretty sum just to have it there. If you're not using it, then release it. And let's say you're done using the Elastic IP and you don't want it. Remember, I said if you don't need it, don't keep it running and costing you a lot of money. So to release it, you have to first and foremost disassociate this IP from that EC2 instance. So I'm going to click disassociate Elastic IP. Once it's disassociated from my EC2 instance, I can now say, AWS, I do not want this IP anymore. Please release this IP from my AWS account and take it away. When you click this, AWS is going to say, okay, cool. Since you don't want it anymore, we're going to take it back. And as you can see, if I refresh, there is no more Elastic IP in here. And guys, now you understand the difference between public IPs and Elastic IP and how to manage them and when to use each one. So this is just foundational networking topic in AWS that every DevOps engineer needs to master. In the next video, we will look at launch templates and auto-scaling groups, another key concept for infrastructure automation and scaling. Make sure you like and subscribe to stay ahead in this AWS journey, and I will see you guys all in the next class. Thank you.